Hey everyone, welcome to video 3 in your math primer for honors and regents physics. I'm going to skip ahead to the third slide, the third part of it. And in this part, we are going to be looking at right angle trigonometry. And you'll see this picture on reference table, page 5, everything on the left side of this page. Your right angle, A, B, and C, we know Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You know your SOHCAHTOA. And probably the most important thing that you can remember for this is the SOHCAHTOA right there, right? What does that acronym mean? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So for this particular angle, opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse. And those play out here as well, whereas sine of theta is A over C. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. If you reverse the angle and you found the other angle, then you could apply the same things to it, but it's going to be a different opposite and a different adjacent angle. So pretty straightforward trigonometry, but I hope you've been exposed to it. And if not, just be rest assured you can learn it pretty quickly and that you really should memorize SOHCAHTOA. In this class, it's notable we're only going to use degrees. We're not going to use radians unless you take AP Physics. Only degrees in this class. So your calculator should only be set to degrees mode. You will get incorrect answers if it's ever set to radians. Okay, so I could give you some examples. I don't think I need to do that really. Oh, why not, I guess. So if that's your angle, right, let's just call this a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So you could say, the tangent of theta, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite is opposite. Your angle is 3 over 4. Sine of theta is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. It's going to be 3 over 5. And we know that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's going to be 4 over 5. Now you could actually define a second angle here. Let's call that angle phi. So you could say, for example, tangent of phi is going to be opposite over adjacent. It's different opposite, right? The opposite is 4, so it's 4/3. Sine of phi is opposite over hypotenuse is 4/5. Cosine of phi is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 3 over 5. And you'll notice that 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to 5 squared. 9 plus 16 is 25. So that's the kind of trig stuff that you're going to do a lot in this class, is basic trig. Now, there are going to be times when you need to solve for your angle, like your angle theta. And in this right triangle, by the way, that's a 90 degree. So let's say that we know that the sine of theta is equal to a half. Typically in math, you have an equation, the left is equal to the right. And if you do something to the left side of the equation, you got to do it to the right side equation or vice versa. So we're actually going to apply this function called the inverse sine or the arc sine of both sides. So you do the inverse sine of sine of theta equals the inverse sine of 0.5. And one thing that we know is that the inverse sine of a sine function, that should probably have an E in there, is just the angle itself. So the inverse sine of sine is just theta. And then, so you get theta is equal to the inverse sine of 1/2. And there's a button on your calculator. It's often a second function button. So you'll see the word second in blue. And you can do, second function of 0.5, and you should get 30 degrees as your answer. You're going to get a different answer in radians if you do it in radians. And you can do this with cosine and tangent functions as well. So let's say the tangent of theta is equal to 0.5. Theta would be the inverse tangent of 0.5 because you do the inverse tangent on the left side and you just get theta. And you do the inverse tangent on the right side and then you get the inverse tangent of 0.5. Can you combine sine, like tangents and inverse sines and weird stuff like that? I mean, if you want to, but I don't recommend it. And it's going to be very, very difficult for you to solve usually that way. And you can just put this in your calculator and you get 26.6 degrees or thereabouts. And again, with cosine of theta is 0.5. So the theta is going to be the inverse cosine of 0.5. Put in your calculator, you get 60 degrees. You can also get negative 60, but just think logically and you can usually get your positive there, or make sense if it is negative what that means. That's it. Nice short video this time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.